good evening. It's wonderful to see so many friends and familiar faces here in the audience this evening. On behalf of the Society, I'd like to extend a very warm welcome to all of you, and thank you for being here with us tonight. This evening is a celebration of all that a remarkable group of young people achieved during our 2017 expedition year, together with their fantastic and committed leaders. Now, if you were to take a quick glance at our website or have a flick through this lovely glossy annual report, lots of copies out there, do pick one up later, you might be forgiven for thinking that at British Exploring, we're all about these amazing locations, jungles, mountains, forests, adventure, all of that. The truth of it, though, is that these places are just a means to an end. That end is to help young people achieve a better future than they might have done so otherwise, to equip them to go out into an uncertain and imperfect world and achieve much more. The way we go about helping our young explorers at British Exploring is, we think, pretty much unique. It's also hard work, and like many good things in life, it doesn't come cheap. But the outcomes, we believe, speak for themselves. Our young explorers go out into the world with the grit and determination to succeed in life, regardless of where they started. Our programs prepare them to better cope with whatever life throws at them, to take the rough with the smooth, to achieve greater success in education and employment, and to lead more fulfilled lives and be the contributors rather than the takers in society. Preparing young people for the future underpins everything that we do here at British Exploring, and this is a thread that is going to run through this evening's presentations. There is so much more I could say on this theme, but the words and the pictures you'll hear and see will speak for themselves. Now, it will come as no surprise that these things don't happen by themselves. There's a huge amount of effort that goes in to delivering these programs, and this evening is an opportunity to thank many of those who made it all possible. It's not my job to do all of that right now, but I'm going to mention a few. Firstly, to those of our young explorers here tonight, thank you for having the self-belief and the courage to commit to our programs. It's an experience we hope that will stay with you for the rest of your life. By participating in one of our programs, you've earned the right to call yourself a member of the British Exploring Society. And at the Society's annual general meeting just a few weeks ago, you were all elected as our newest members. Congratulations, and we look forward to a long and active association with each and every one of you. I'd like to come back to a point I made earlier, which is these programs are hard to deliver, particularly to the standards that we do and the impact that we aspire to have. It takes an astonishing amount of effort, time, and money. And there are many silent heroes in all of this. You'll hear much this evening of our volunteer leaders, and rightly so. They freely give their time, their passion, and their skills. And together with our young explorers, those leaders sit at the center of everything that we do. The Society is enormously fortunate to have a deeply committed and growing team here at our offices at the RGS, led by our CEO, Honour Wilson-Fletcher. They consistently go beyond the norm on behalf of our young explorers. And I see firsthand, I see the late nights, the sacrifice weekends. Team, the Society is hugely lucky to have you, and thank you for all that you've done during the course of this last year. I'm also enormously privileged to work with a team of deeply committed and passionate trustees who sit on the Society's council. And somehow these people manage to find the time during their incredibly busy lives to give the guidance, the knowledge, and the support to the Society to help it stay on course. Every program that goes out into the field is signed off by trustees. Every standard operating procedure is rigorously challenged, reviewed, constantly checked. Mobile operation rooms are manned. Budgets are made, reviewed. Strategic plans are reviewed and checked as well. The workload is just simply huge. Council, thank you very much for everything you've done during the course of the last year. We wouldn't be here without that effort. But all of this would not be for the humbling support we receive from our donors. These are the people who provide the financial capital to make all of this happen. And so to the individuals, the companies, the trusts and foundations, you are so important in creating the lasting benefit which we aspire to deliver for our young people. Thank you so much. Now, British Exploring, we are enormously fortunate to have the support of so many inspiring individuals from the worlds of exploration, science, and beyond. And these individuals play a vital role in helping us inspire young people to go on and achieve great things in their lives. And to better recognize the contribution of these individuals, last year the Society created a new class of membership, which is Fellows of the British Exploring Society. Our CEO, Honor, is now going to come and tell you more about this initiative. And to announce our first fellows, I'm delighted to welcome two inspiring young women to the stage as well, Captain Zanna Baker and Lance Corporal Rin Cobb. Now, Zanna and Rin are both former British young explorers, and now both serve in the British Army. They've both recently been part of the hugely successful Ice Maiden expedition to Antarctica, which achieved the first successful crossing of Antarctica by any female team. And I couldn't think of two better people to award our first fellows. So please welcome Honor, Zanna, and Rin.
Good evening. Fellowship of British Exploring Society is awarded by our council. A fellow can be any individual involved in our work, a member of staff, a volunteer, a partner, donor, patron, or explorer, and is granted in relation to exceptional contribution in a field that aligns with our charitable objects. This includes education, youth development, social work, fundraising, training, leadership, expedition design, science, geology, medicine, or enterprise. We are very proud and delighted to announce our first group of fellows. And with the very briefest of titles, these include, and I'd like to ask each of them to join us if they're here, Sir Ranulph Fiennes, Explorer, Dr. Lucy Obolensky, Doctor and Associate Lecturer, Chris Wright, Chief Executive of Catch-22. You're beginning to move, some of you, hopefully. Field Marshal Sir John Chappell, British Army Officer, David Dangor, philanthropist and businessman, Ben Saunders, Polar Explorer, Dr. Peter Allison, Associate Professor, Tori James, Adventurer, Lieutenant General Peter Pearson, Colonel John Blashford Snell, Bruce Manning, British Exploring Leader, Alex Gregory, Olympic gold medalist, Pen Haddo, Polar Explorer, and Major General Sir Michael Hobbs. To this remarkable lineup, there were a couple of notable absentees who felt their absence and asked to submit a short video. So if we could have those now, please.
Hi everyone, it's Ben Saunders. I'm here in the Swiss Alps. You can see it's sort of half raining, half snowing behind me. Firstly, I am very honoured to have been made a Fellow of the British Exploring Society. Secondly, I'm really sad that I can't be with you this evening for what I'm sure is a fantastic event. I read something a couple of weeks ago that nearly 2/3 of children in America now spend less time outdoors than maximum security prisons. I'm sure in Britain we aren't far behind. And it still astonishes me that you can spend 16 years in full-time education in Britain and learn next to nothing about teamwork and communication and leadership. So I think there has never been a greater need for the brilliant work that British Exploring are doing, and I hope to be supporting them for a long time to come. I want to say hello to Zanna and also to the rest of the Ice Maidens as well. It's great to meet you in Antarctica at the end of last year, and look forward to seeing you guys soon.
Good evening to you. Sorry I can't be with you, as I am in Somerset tonight. I applaud this enterprising charity for pushing hard to help young people discover their potential through challenging adventure in the wilderness. So thank you for making me a Fellow of the British Exploring Society. And congratulations to everybody up for an award this evening.
Thank you, and I'd like to just hand over now to Zana and Rin.
Good evening, everyone. I'm going to pop that down a bit. It was on the way here that it dawned on me. It was actually 20 years ago that my British exploring journey started as a young explorer. And since then, it's just kind of whet my appetite, really. And I had the privilege of coming back as a leader and base camp manager. And it was during those trips that I realised I had a bit of an affinity to logistics. And fast forward 15 years or so, and I've been able to combine my nutrition work as a dietitian and the logistics side of things, and offer the support for the Ice Maiden expedition as their team nutritionist, which was a real privilege. And as you can see, has come back in a very good form. So back then, we didn't have fellows as such, but as you can see from all these people standing here, the individuals were there and doing all the work and the backbone, supporting all of you, and usually not getting an awful lot of praise for it. So it's wonderful that the fellows are now being sort of recognised for that, and long may it last.
In a similar vein to Rin, it was 10 years ago that I was on stage here giving my presentation, having returned from South Georgia and the Falkland Islands. And whilst I sort of dreamt that I might be able to return and be on stage again, I never really believed that it would be possible. And then down in Antarctica, I was having a good conversation with Ben Saunders in Union Glacier about honour and what a fantastic job she's been doing. And what an honour it was for him to be made a fellow. And it's a shame he's not here tonight, but we do have such a fantastic selection of people here to be made fellows, and it is such an honour to be on stage with all of you, such an inspiration to all of us and to any of the young explorers here, and hopefully the future generations to come. So thank you very much for everything that you do.
It's amazing the lengths I'll go to get my name said repeatedly on stage. I cannot thank you all enough for everything that you have done, and that I know that you will continue to do, and we will welcome further nominations for fellows to come. These are just the tip of the iceberg in terms of the extraordinary contribution that people make. Thank you so much.
Hello everyone, my name's Matt, and my primary role at British Exploring is mostly about finding the young people from various places and organisations to come and join us on expedition. But none of the expeditions that we do would be possible without the amazing group of people that Caroline and her team recruit every year to come and lead on those expeditions. We can't get them all here tonight. They're all over the place, many of them up mountains. But what we are going to do is get a few of them up on stage to answer a few questions about who they are and what they do, to give you guys a flavour of the remarkable people who come and lead for British Exploring. So if I can invite up Alex, Fernando, Tony and Jenny to come and join me on stage, that would be great. Okay, Alex, we'll start with you if that's all right. You've recently returned from our Himalaya 2017 expedition, and that was your first experience of leading with British Exploring. I'd like to ask you to share with everyone why you got involved and what you got out of your first experience and whether it was what you expected.
Yeah, so this was my first time with British Exploring. I'd heard about it through various friends and colleagues. And I work in logistics and operations normally. So it really appealed to go for the role as the base camp manager, as it seemed a great way to use those skills. And I perhaps hadn't realized that that was a good way to work with British Exploring. You sort of think it might just be for mountain leaders and things. And on a more personal level, I love the outdoors, and I was really lucky to have an upbringing that was very adventurous and in the outdoors. And I really liked the values that British Exploring could give people that opportunity. So yeah, our expedition, I think that's a picture from us up there, isn't it? So we had quite a lot of fun. And it just exceeded all expectations. And I think you asked, was it what I expected?
Yeah.
And it was just so much more than I expected. I expected it to be fun and hard work and exciting. And it was just so much more fun and so much more hard work than I expected as well. Yeah.
Thank you. If you could hand over to Fernando, who... now, Fernando, you were also on your first time with us last season in the Amazon, but you're coming back with us again this year to lead in the Yukon. Fernando's role is as a scientist on expedition, so I'd like you to explain to the audience what part science plays on a British exploring expedition, and why is it important?
Science. Why is it important? First, for me, it's very important because it allows me to go on expeditions. But yeah, thank you, British Exploring, for making your expeditions with a purpose. And that's the key, I think, for science to be in expeditions in British Exploring, because I totally agree with climbers when they say, why do we climb? Because the mountain is there, it's reason enough, and I agree. But if you add a discovery to a climbing, isn't that like at least 20 times better? So discovery, I mean, science is discovery. Science is reaching very far into the unknown and grasping a little bit of it to make it part of our knowledge. And so this thrill for discovery is what makes an expedition so much better. And also, at the same time, this seek for discovery, this common task, this common purpose, it's a fantastic tool to do what British Exploring really tries, which is create an environment for young people to develop, to grow. And science is perfect for that, because to create a discovery, to find something, to make science, you need a lot of things, like be a good team worker, plan properly, a lot of skills that now we have excuse to use in an expedition. So yeah, I think that science is at the very root of what British Exploring does, because it helps to create this environment for growth.
Thank you. Okay, so next up I'd like to ask you a question, Tony. Tony has led for us in the Himalayas, in Namibia, and in Iceland on a number of occasions. And a special thank you for flying all the way back from Dubai tonight to be with us. Really, really appreciated. So Tony, I wanted to ask you, in your professional life, you're as familiar with the boardroom environment as you are with the outdoors. Why do you think it's important for young people to get experience in the outdoors?
Okay, good question. But I don't think it's only young people that can gain advantage from being on these expeditions. I think we all can. Imagine this scenario. So you're a leader in Iceland. It's very wet, very, very wet. It's very cold. And you're walking along right at the back of the group with a young explorer who's walking incredibly, almost unbelievably slowly, and is getting more and more miserable. Then you reach yet another river that we've got to cross. he throws down his pack on the ground, sits on it and says, I'm not going to take another step. Suddenly all the management tools that you had don't seem quite so powerful. You can't suggest a vote of no confidence or send him an email saying his performance this afternoon has been less than satisfactory. So, I think what I'm trying to say is we all gain from being on expeditions, both leaders and explorers. But to answer your question, what do I think the young people can really take from the expedition? I think one of the most important things is a sense of team membership and the power that a successful team can have and how valuable it is to be part of that team. So, management speak used to talk about teams forming, norming, storming, performing. I don't think I ever really knew what all the terms meant. But what I do know is, and what I did experience on British exploring expeditions, is a group of people getting together and becoming more than the sum of its individual parts. And a group of people forming its own strong, powerful identity and sense of purpose, which allow that group to do more than perhaps most of the individuals, if not all the individuals, thought they could do. So in answer to your question, Matt, that experience is so wonderful. I think that is why I would encourage young people to go on a British exploring expedition.
Thank you. Okay, and so lastly, Jenny, much like Tony, Jenny also has a long list of participation as a leader on British exploring expeditions. She's led with us in Norway, a few times in the Himalayas, and on 2 different expeditions in the Canadian Yukon last year, and is coming back again to the Yukon with Fernando this year again. So what do you think are the most common lessons that young people learn in the outdoors, and what surprised you over the years?
There's loads of lessons. I think the most common one, the most obvious one that everyone brings back when they report back after expedition is self-organisation. That having to sort yourself out, look after yourself, make everything organised in a tent, and how that transfers back into real life. Another one that I'm particularly pleased comes back a lot is environmental awareness. So while they're out on expedition, every bit of waste having to be accounted for, every drop of water having to be very carefully filtered, collected, just makes people so much more aware of how much waste and how easy we have things in our normal life. I think the one that surprises me or perhaps impresses me most is every so often we get one of those young people or not so young people who find it really, really difficult, and to the point of, I can't do this, and if you're at home would have gone, right, that I'm going home, I'm getting on a train, and then just whatever it was that they thought they couldn't do it, and become stronger because of it.
Thank you. The last thing I'm going to ask each of you to do before I let you off the stage, a lot of our young explorers will return home to applications to university or job interviews, and they'll often list British exploring on their CVs. Unfortunately, not as many employers out there are aware of British exploring as we would like. So if I could ask you, in as few words as possible, to maybe try and explain to a future employer what it is that those young people will have, what makes them special about the British exploring experience.
So the first thing I will say, I will ask, really, which year do I know her? And then hire her. Because these people for sure have resilience, they adapt very well to new problems, they have this MacGyverism, the ability to find resources and use them when there is nothing else available. So I think it gives you a set of skills that you can apply to almost every job, especially a job that requires creativity.
Everything you just said.
Yeah, I think a sense of determination, as you just put so well, even when you think you can't do something, they come back with this real sense of self-belief, which I think is huge. And that creativity that they just sought out this experience in the first place and applied themselves to it.
Yeah, I'd say to that employer, do yourself a favor, get this person in, let them speak, let them hear their story, because they'll certainly have a story to tell. I think you'll certainly find someone who's very self-aware, self-confident, and at the very least, very ready, willing, and able to talk about their strengths and weaknesses.
Thanks for leaving me to the end, so that you said all of them. I think every one of us at some point put on our CVs, I'm a great team player, but that young person or leader who's been out on these expeditions will genuinely know what it means to be a good team player, both in terms of logistically, what everyone had to do together, working together, but more importantly, emotionally and supporting the team and being sensitive to the people around them.
Thank you very much. I'll let you off the stage.
Ooh, it's awards time. It's abundantly obvious that anyone who has the task of attempting to choose one leader over another has an unenviable task. So can we just take it as read that anyone who was up for any award this year deserved it? And what we're trying to do is at least make a representative selection to wave the flag for the fact that, frankly, all of our leaders are amazing. Can we please start, therefore, with the Watson New Leader of the Year Award, which is awarded and was set up to celebrate our first-time and developing leaders and is named after our retired chairman, Teddy Watson. So please could I ask Teddy and one of our judges, Jules, to come up, please, to announce the winner.
Well, good evening, everybody, and well, it's very exciting to be here. I've been briefed by Honesby exceedingly to the point and brief, so I shall endeavour to be so. And we have some envelopes here which are very exciting, but not that one. Teddy's one. So, the Teddy Watson Award is perhaps the most important, really, because it recognises new expedition leadership and talent, and really, without that expedition leadership and talent for the future, it would make the incredible work that the Society does so much more difficult. There was a judging panel convened of which I was honoured to be part of, and I'll just read the 7 shortlisted candidates now. Fernandez Matias, Ruth Campion, Sue Brown, Andy Browning, Alex Manison, Tony Harper, and Eve Armstrong. So, first of all, I think congratulations to all of those nominated. Unfortunately, it's a cruel fact that there can only be one winner on this occasion. And the citation may give a few clues to who the winner of this prize is. The citations read, "This person was authentic, unflappable, and has all the time in the world for their team members. Their contribution to the well-being of everyone on expedition cannot be underestimated, and they made base camp a home from home." Is that a clue? This person was particularly famed for, on expedition, their sense of humour, their karaoke skills, and also their improvised gymnastics. This person was, of course, the Amazon base camp manager, Sue Brown.
I'm very tempted to ask Sue to do a bit of karaoke.
Have
we got any music?
No. Not a good idea.
But well done, top marks. And it's an incredibly important starting point, the new leaders we generate in this society. and what they go on to do. And so well done, top marks, and we expect to see lots more of this karaoke in our base camps.
Thank you very much. Next up, the Les Morgan Leader of the Year Award. This is supported by Les Morgan's family through generous donation. Les was a very well-loved and respected leader at British Exploring Society, and since his sad demise in 2004, his family have very kindly supported our explorers and our leaders with a number of bursaries and award. I'd like to therefore welcome a member of the Les Morgan's family onto stage, along with Cathy O'Dowd, who also had the unenviable task of judging this award.
Being a judge for this award sucks, basically. Sorry. Because you get presented with this list of these extraordinary people who've been to these amazing places, held really quite different roles within the expedition. They all look like incredible candidates who, of course, have volunteered their time to do this. And then you're supposed to rank them and put one above the other. I mean, it's just heartbreaking. And it's not even particularly straightforward, because I think being a good leader for British exploring is particularly hard. It's not the corporate leader or the army leader who's, has this incredible position of authority or control. Because what a British exploring leader has to do is make an environment that is safe and secure in both emotional and physical ways. So it needs to be controlled and contained. But at the same time, you're trying to develop young people. You're trying to get them to stand up and be leaders in their own space. Find their innate ability, believe in it, and put it to the test in the world. So as a leader, you have to step back, create space, be nurturing, allow others to step forward to test themselves within this environment. I think it's a particularly skilled task to be a really good leader within the British exploring space. So we ended up with blood and tears with 6 shortlisted leaders for the Les Morgan Award. We had Tony Harper, who was an adventure leader, Tom Abbey, a chief leader, Sarah Weisling, a chief medic, Jenny Richardson, who was a chief leader and deputy chief leader, James Dyer, who was a chief leader, and Alex Wardle, who was a base camp manager. And all of them extraordinary candidates. If we can just have a round of applause for those 6. For our winner, I'm going to read you a citation that came in as part of a nomination, which is, without resorting to overtly dictatorial style, this person created an environment in which everyone could do their best work. The style was nurturing, questioning, and motivational, and always had the well-being of the young explorers at heart, ensuring that they had as transformational an experience as possible. I think this is going to be a very popular winner, and it goes to James Dyer.
Now, the observant of you may have noticed Mr. James Dyer occupies significant space in a room normally that we normally know that he's here, which means he isn't here, but he did take the trouble to send us a message.
Evening, everybody. Thank you for the award. Apologies I can't be with you tonight. I'm away. Very surprised when Honor rang me the other night to tell me that I had received this award, particularly when the field was full of amazing other leaders who were all duly worthy of this prize. I'm very honoured to accept the award. I'd like to do a few thank yous in true Oscar-winning style. Firstly, I'd like to thank the panel for selecting me from this field. It must have been a hard job. I'd also like to thank Frances Morgan and her family, Judy, who I believe is there tonight. Thank you for your continued support to the Society, and particularly to the support and the recognition of leaders, in the importance of leaders in leading these expeditions. I know about Les, and I hope I could do him some justice with this award. I'd like to thank all my leaders who have nominated me, both this year and last year. Thank you. Mainly because as a chief leader, you can't lead unless you have some leaders who might follow you. So thank you for doing that, and thank you for those of you that nominated me for this award. Most appreciative to you. I actually wanted all the Amazon leader team this year to come up onto the stage and collect the award on my behalf, because it's much theirs as it is mine, I am sure. It is a massive honour to lead a British exploring expedition, in whatever capacity it is, and be part of these amazing expeditions and to work with some amazing young people on their part of their journey. I'd like to leave you with a quote from Jane Goodall, who said that young people, when informed and empowered, when they realise that what they do truly can make a difference and indeed change the world. This is our job as leaders. It's a great responsibility. It's been wonderful to be recognised for that work, and I thank you all. Have a really good evening. Sorry I can't be with you, but enjoy the rest of the night. Thank you.
So now let's hear from some of those amazing young people.
So, from remarkable leaders to remarkable explorers. As head of expeditions, I have the immense privilege of overseeing the delivery of all of our expeditions at British Exploring. And as it happens, about half an hour ago, not very far from where I'm stood right now, someone asked me, "What is the best part of your job?" There's a long list. I didn't impart the entire list because I'd probably still be there now if I had. But the one thing I identified as the favourite part of my job was being able to talk to explorers after they return from their adventures overseas about everything that it has meant to them. So I was absolutely delighted when I was asked to chair a panel to talk to our explorers. Over the next 20 minutes or so, we're going to hear from 7 such explorers who all had very different journeys overseas. All of our expeditions are different, from the Peruvian Amazon to the Himalayan mountains to the Canadian wilderness. However, there are some things that remain the same across all of our expeditions. They are made up of remarkable teams, including our volunteer leaders, who we've already heard from, our explorers, and also trainee leaders. So those are young people who are participating in a longer programme of training and development in the hope of one day being able to take up the mantle of a full leader on a British exploring expedition. They're all based out of wilderness base camps, which, bluntly, when we arrive, there's very little there. Often it is a field with a river or some water access, and it is up to our teams to make a home from this completely blank canvas. And whilst they are on expedition, they are completely independent. Our teams have to carry all their own kit, all their own food. They need to plan their routes so that they can collect water to drink whilst they're on expedition. So it really is a real wilderness challenge. And to hear about the different ways that our young people engaged with that challenge this year, I'd like to invite my first four. They're looking at me and saying four explorers to the stage. Guys, if you'd like to join me. So to start us off, guys, if you would like to introduce yourselves and tell your audience which expedition you participated in.
Hello, my name's James Land and I participated in the Iceland expedition.
Hi, I'm Rob and I went to the Indian Himalayas last summer. Hello, my name's Edward Morgan. I went to the Yukon last summer, as well as 3 other expeditions with the Society.
Hi, I'm Alex, and I went on the Epic Badlands expedition.
So, James, starting with you. Obviously, as I've said, our expeditions can be a bit of a challenge. Why did you choose to get involved in a British exploring expedition in the first place?
Before I started with the British Exploring, I was in Army Cadets for 6.5 years, and I did some expeditions with them, and I loved being out in the wilderness. When I left Cadets, I joined Catch-22 College, then found out about British Exploring, and as soon as I got the chance to join to do an expedition, I jumped straight for the chance, and I never regretted it since.
And what is it about expeditions you enjoy so much?
Being in the wilderness, seeing the true beauty of the earth, being where certain people haven't been, where there's no buildings, no cars, no nothing, and it is brilliant.
Sounds fabulous. And Rob, what about you? Why did you decide to take on the adventure?
Mainly ease of access. Going to a place like the Himalayas was amazing for me. If somebody had told me a year ago that I was going to go there, being age 19, I would have told them, no chance. But then when I found out how British Exploring makes it so easy for a young person such as me to go to an environment like that, I just couldn't turn off the chance. It was amazing.
And you talked about the ease of accessing the expedition, but when you were there, Rob, were there some challenges?
Yeah, definitely. Altitude sickness in the Himalayas is a silent killer, really. I underestimated it quite a bit myself, so my first 2 nights there were completely sleepless, just staring at the stars for 12 hours trying to pass the time. But yeah, it hit our expedition quite hard. Yeah.
And how did your team rally around you to support you when you were feeling a bit exhausted?
Yeah. The doctors play a really, really good role on the expedition. They're really important. They help with a number of issues that arise. And they gave us good advice, always to look out for to take up a buddy-buddy system, look out for the person next to you. And that helped a lot, because altitude can affect people in many different ways. And just talking and identifying symptoms really helped everyone get through it.
Great. And what about you, Alex? Did you experience any challenges on your expedition?
I personally experienced a lot of challenges. Probably most notably was the extreme heat. We went to the Spanish Badlands. It was basically a desert. There was no water anywhere. Everyone was sweating. It was really grim. My feet hurt. Yeah.
And before we move on, Alex, thank you for that candid articulation of a desert expedition. How did you meet those challenges with your team?
So we also had a buddy-buddy system, and there was a big focus on teamwork, looking out for each other, making sure that everyone was drinking enough water. We were checking each other's feet, which again was grim. I didn't want to do that. Yeah, everyone supported each other, whether that be physically, like carrying the tent for the day because you carried it yesterday, or just like shouting, "You can do this!" Yeah, we were all there for each other.
And James, returning to you, what did you learn about your expedition environment whilst you were there?
When I was in Iceland, I took part in the John Muir Award, where we learned how to look after the environment. We learned information about John Muir. We learned that when you go to a new environment, you try and keep it the same as how you found it. So if you see any rubbish, if you have rubbish, you pick it up off the floor and find a bin, so you don't leave any evidence that you were there ruining the environment.
Great. And is that something that you've been doing since you've been back, James?
Definitely. Since I've been back in the UK, without even realising, I see rubbish on the floor and I just pick it up, and I walk like. And after I do it, I walk down the street a bit and I go, hold on. Then I realise where I got it from, and it's amazing to be able to learn that skill and carry it on afterwards.
Fantastic. And Ed, can you tell me what your favourite moment on expedition was, please?
Ooh, which one? I think my favourite moment on expedition, and certainly my most recent expedition to the Yukon, was sitting at the top of what we called High Camp, which was a camp which was at the confluence of 2 enormous rivers in the Yukon, and looking over a huge, vast vista of mountains and boreal forest as far as the eye can see. And these these moments are important because they are fundamentally moments of inspiration, and it's these inspired moments which really drive the ambitions and hopes of young people, and so the more the merrier, as far as I'm concerned.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. Alex.
Yes.
Hi.
Hi.
Can you tell me a bit about your expedition team, please?
So I just want to start off by saying my expedition team were fantastic. Like, I couldn't have asked to be stranded with better people. They were great. They supported me through all of my challenges, even when I didn't ask for it, and even when I really didn't want the support, they were still there for me. And I think ultimately that is what makes good leadership, and that is what makes you, as a young explorer, want to follow them through the desert.
Literally.
Literally.
And Ed, finally.
Yes.
You keep coming back, Ed.
I do.
Why do you keep coming back?
I keep going back because you get something out of a British exploring expedition which you don't in many other walks of life, and that is a real depth of companionship and camaraderie which just does simply not exist unless you've really been on an expedition and really been cut off from everyone else. And people who have experienced that depth of friendship know how to develop it outside of an expedition environment as well, which is a hugely valuable skill. And to be kept reminded of how to do that every other year or so is really valuable for me. So I'll see you next year.
Great. Guys, thank you very much. A round of applause for our first panel. Did you see that seamless segue? Because I'm greedy, I've got 2 panels. So, guys, if you could indulge me by talking to me a bit about your expedition experience and how you're planning to apply that back in your life at home. To start us off, can you introduce yourself to your audience and which expedition you've been on, please?
So, hi, I'm James. My original expedition was Oman in 2013, and then I was back last year in the Yukon as a trainee leader, or TL.
Hi, I'm Eliana. I took part in the Dango Next Generation program in Iceland through 2015 and 2016, and then came back as a trainee leader in 2017 in the Himalayas.
I'm also James, unfortunately, and also went to the Yukon in Canada.
Great, thank you very much, guys. So, James G, starting with you. What response have you had when you talk to people about your expedition experience?
So I think this response over the board has been excellent from the expeditions. I think it's largely because whether you're going to the jungles or the Arctic or the deserts, these expeditions are really credible, and they're credible because they are really tough. So people are quite interested to hear what you've been up to and see what you've been doing.
Fantastic. And James C, what did you learn on expedition that you didn't know before?
Well, something I certainly learned was that you can have fire and rain. You can have wet everything, you can be cold and everything, have wet firewood, wet everything really, and still have a fire if you really need it to. You know, after being in the rain, getting soaked through, getting cold, needing that cup of tea just to keep you going. If there's a will, there's a way, so to speak.
And Eliana, you've been on an expedition with us before, so what did you learn on your first expedition?
I think throughout all of them, but mainly the first one, I learned a lot of skills that actually I've carried on through, not just sort of in my everyday life, but also the expeditions that I've done since. I've learned something new from every expedition. So
Right.
whether that's leadership skills, emotional intelligence, it's all been very applicable.
And you were a trainee leader, is that right, Eliana?
Yes, that was in the Himalayas last summer.
Did you learn anything new as a TL that you didn't learn as an explorer?
A lot of patience. A lot of patience.
I'm surprised you didn't learn that as an explorer, Eliana.
I did.
I think
I learned
that's-
it even more now.
And James G, you were also a trainee leader. What did you learn through our TL programme this year?
So I guess I learned 2 things. So the first is that a scientific name for a group of TLs is a mischief. Don't know why they got that from. But secondly, I came into the trainee leader scheme thinking it'd be very much like the mountain leader schemes, where you learn a lot of technical skills, navigation and kind of mountain craft. But the light bulb moment for me was kind of about halfway through phase 1 of the expedition. our little TL team had a bit of a meltdown. So anybody who's had kind of an office argument will know quite how hard it is in a restricted environment. Anybody who's been on an expedition and had to try and keep an argument kind of secret, I know how impossible that is. But through this, we learned this great lesson about working together as a team and kind of overcoming problems and dealing with people who all have very strong opinions and they don't always match. But how to kind of cope with that as a team and work through that together without storming off into the wilderness and getting lost.
And is that something you think you'll lose again, minus the wilderness bit?
Yeah, I think this is like a key thing really for the trainee leader scheme in particular is the soft skills and the development of soft skills is a thing that I don't think you can get really anywhere else. I have not really seen it in any of the schemes outside of British Exploring Society, so it's something that's really quite unique to BES and something that I've gained a lot from.
Great. And James C., just returning to you, how has expedition changed the way you live your life at home?
Well, living in London, the urban rules of London, and after coming back from the true wilderness that the Yukon is, noticing little habits I've picked up, like walking across grass verges rather than walking all the way around on the pavement, and realising quite over 6 months how big a difference that makes. The mark you leave, going back to the John Muir Award, and leave no trace, and the little trace you don't notice, but actually over time it builds up.
Great. And James G., what would you say to someone considering taking part in a British exploring expedition?
So I think the biggest step for most people is just signing up initially and getting started. So I know that originally on my Oman expedition, I signed up and then I dropped out, and then I got a phone call from Sue saying, "Why have you dropped out? You need to sign back up." And I was like, I had all this idea about I had to have everything in line before I went on the expedition, and I was thinking kind of 5 steps ahead. And the analogy that I use is ready, aim, fire is the normal way of putting things, but actually you should kind of change the last 2 around and just go ready, fire, and then aim. And things just have a way of working out. And it might not be very easy, but once you've committed and taken that first step, that's the hard bit done, and you can just kind of figure everything out. And you don't have to know how you're going to fundraise everything because there's options available and stuff. So.
James mentioned fundraising there. Eliana, tell us a bit about your fundraising journey.
Yeah, so that was also quite a ready, fire, aim. James spoke before about making an impact, and over the years, British Explorers made an impact on a lot of young people, but I think what most people don't realise is that that impact is actually a lot more widespread. So whether that's just from a change of mindset or something like the fundraising schemes for Explorer Miles, that impacts not just you from what you learn, but it also impacts your local community.
Do you want to tell the audience a bit more about how the Explorer Miles scheme works?
So you volunteer at a local community, sort of charity, service, anything, and you're fundraised by sponsors and donors of British Exploring to do that. So I volunteered at a youth centre that's close to me, and I learned so much from it, as well as being able to give back to my local community.
Fantastic. And finally, guys, one last question to each of you. What do you have planned next, James C.?
So I'm fortunate enough to be going off to Kenya with VSO over the summer.
Cool. Eliana?
I'm doing a geology degree. I'm hoping to go on to do my PhD and maybe become a science leader in the future.
Cool. James G.?
So I'll be wearing a British Exploring badge on my Boyne-Sade next week as I try and paddle across Scotland on a stand-up paddleboard. And then I'm training to be a mountain leader, and I'll be back as an adventure leader soon, hopefully.
Amazing. So we have some leaders of the future on the stage in front of us. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. So before our next item, I'd like to introduce a very short film about all our expeditions over the last season. It was edited very kindly for us by Finlay MacDonald. So, next up, I have the privilege of announcing the Les Morgan Memorial Award for Explorers. And to help me in making the award, I'd like to invite Judy Morgan to join me on the stage. And we heard a little about Les earlier, and members of the Society who've been to these events before will have heard this before, but Les died in 2004 of motor neurone disease. A coal miner's son from South Wales, he was a big man in all respects. He loved and dedicated a large part of his life to open world spaces and encouraging young people to learn about themselves through those spaces. British Exploring captured many things that were close to his heart, not the least of these being leadership and especially dealing with adversity. He believed that you led, sometimes from the front, sometimes from the sides, but you always looked out for one another. This annual award is made to a young explorer who has shown exceptional initiative or leadership in adverse circumstances on an expedition. The award is made on the recommendation of the expedition chief leader and judged by the Chief Executive Officer of British Exploring. I'm going to read out all of the nominees for this award, and I would like all of them, if they are here, to come and join me on stage, please. So they are Anissa Jammer for the Stellar Leadership Development Programme, Ruben Nuttall from the Peruvian Amazon. Is Ruben here? Ewan Campbell from the Himalayan Expedition. Luke Selby from the Dangor Next Generation Programme. Maz Carriata from the Expeditionary Year Programme. Alex Simpson from the Epic Badlands Expedition. And finally, Kelly Horton from the Canadian Yukon. The nominations for this award are always inspiring, they are always emotive, and they are always, and without exception, very, very impressive. And this year was no exception. If you ask a chief leader to talk about the explorers within his team or her team, they do tend to wax lyrical about these remarkable young people, and with absolutely good reason. I would love to read all of those citations in full, but we may be here until tomorrow morning because there were so many wonderful things to say about these young people, so I'm going to read a very brief excerpt on behalf of each one. Anissa Jammer. Anissa showed bravery, taking on many unknowns to come on a British exploring expedition. Her strength of will, huge smile, and contribution to the team were absolutely invaluable and hugely appreciated by the whole team. Ruben Nuttall. His physical and mental strength became an asset, and we found a smiling and funny expeditioner. He exemplifies the journey that an expedition can be for many young people. Ewan Campbell. Ewan was curious, enthusiastic, modest, keen to learn, often laughing and incredibly willing to help out and get stuck in. His strength of character was shown when he became suddenly ill at 5,000 metres, requiring the whole team to help him off the mountain. But his leaders reported he was keen to walk as much as he could so as not to burden others. Luke Selby. Luke has challenged himself to progress and develop beyond his own comfort zones throughout the training and expedition phases of DNG. He is an example to all of what can be done if you allow yourself the opportunity. Maz Carriata. Amongst a group of exceptional young explorers, Maz made the biggest steps forward to have the confidence, as well as the comic timing, to deliver show-stopping anecdotes in front of a large audience was evidence of a young man who had grown and gained so much, a true leader of the future. Alex. In every respect, Alex is exactly the sort of team member one would wish to have on expedition. It is no exaggeration to say she was permanently cheerful, lively, and entertaining. No task was too small for her, and she was willing to have a go at everything. Kelly's just shaking her head at me at the other end of the line. Kelly was massively enthusiastic about the expedition experience and showed fantastic spirit and determination throughout. She accomplished all tasks with humility and was supported and supporting within her group. She has shown what is possible when others help you believe in yourself. So I'm sure you'll agree, a remarkable group of young people, and I hope I've just given you a taste of how much agony I know Honor went through in trying to select a winner. But there can be only one winner. So I would like to ask Alex Simpson to step forward to receive the prize for the Les Morgan Explorer of the Year Award. Thank you. You're welcome. It's well deserved. And a final round of applause for all of our nominees. Apologies, I've missed an essential element of the running order. We have been very kindly donated this tent, which goes to our winner as well. Well done. Well done, William. Excellent work. Well done, Maz.
This was the very first year of the British Exploring Society Challenge, where a group of extremely intrepid individuals battled frankly horrific weather in Dartmoor to fundraise for us and to show their mettle. 4 teams joined us for this very first year, and they raised over £42,000 for us through their extraordinary efforts, and they claimed that they enjoyed it. We would like to congratulate our very first winning team and would like to ask one of our fellows to congratulate them properly. So I would like to ask the winning Healthcare at Home team and Alex Gregory Fellow to join us on stage for a congratulatory round of applause, please. Just a brief word to say, I don't know whether any of the participants would wish to say a couple of sentences about the high point and the low point before we let you go, given that you were extremely positive throughout about the experience. Would anyone care to say one sentence in front of the microphone? Somebody's been nominated. There's always somebody nominated, isn't there?
Thank you very much. To be honest, it was an honour to do it. Sorry to use your name again. There were no low points, to be honest. It was incredibly wet. I've never seen rain at whatever angle you were stood at coming horizontally at you with the wind to back it all up. The high points, I worked with a tremendous team. One of our members couldn't be here tonight, Mark Roderick. He sends his apologies. We had just such fun, and if this was just a very small amount of all of the wonderful stories we've heard tonight, then I'll be personally encouraging as many people to get involved in this as possible. And one final thing, in the words of Arnold Schwarzenegger, we will be back.
Thank you all. I just think the last thing we need to say is this is a group of individuals who I understand. Hands up, how many of you had been camping before this weekend? And how many of you were good with a map? I think hearty congratulations to them all, and definitely coming back soon.
I was on that challenge, and my clothes have literally just dried out, and my feet have just recovered. What Honor didn't mention was the whole thing happened during an amber storm warning. It was completely ridiculous. Ladies and gentlemen, Honor is going to bring this evening to a close, but before she does that, I mentioned earlier silent heroes, and none of what happens here, or what you've heard, happens by itself. There are so many people in our office, you've heard so much about our leaders, but there are our partners and our partner organizations, and of course our donors, and these things just wouldn't happen without their considerable efforts. However, I'd like to single out two individual contributions who've made an outstanding contribution to our charitable mission over the years. Tonight, we say a very fond farewell to our longest-serving member of staff, Jackie Kerr. Jackie, where are you? There she is. Jackie is retiring after 13 years, having looked after our fundraising for all that period. The Society has changed just unbelievably over that time. I've been involved for pretty much most of that, not quite as long, but a good 10 years, and so much has changed. The scale of our impact, we've become much more purposeful, much more thoughtful about for whom and how we create benefit in young people. And Jackie, this just simply wouldn't have happened without your contribution. You played an enormously important part in getting us to where we are today. Time and time again, you delivered. Jackie, we've worked out that over the period of your time with the Society, something like 3,500 young explorers have passed through the Society and benefited from your contribution. And that's something like 1/3 of the entire total that have passed through the Society since Murray Levick established the Society back in 1932. We know that you are looking forward to spending time with your young and growing family, and you go with our heartfelt thanks and very best wishes for a very long and happy retirement. Thank you very much. Now, there's one other individual I'd like to single out for special attention. I've been to some pretty arduous places with this guy, some reasonably tough expeditions to Antarctica, Svalbard, and Baffin Island, but none of the efforts expended on those trips are anything like what this guy has done in terms of his contribution over the last few years with British Exploring. Dara, I think you're there, stick your hand up. Dara has been a trustee for the last 6 years and retires this evening. When I mentioned earlier that no expedition goes out into the field without being rigorously checked, that standing operating procedures are reviewed, challenged, adapted, that mobile operation rooms are manned, Dara's the guy that's been doing it on everyone's behalf. And if you think it's because he's got spare time to do this, I mean, he's one of the busiest people I know. How he fits it all in, I just can't imagine. That commitment would be more than enough for most people, but Dara, you've gone one further. Together with Anne, you've quietly and without any fuss or fanfare been one of the most generous benefactors to the Society over recent years. Dara, I'd like to express the Society's enormous gratitude for everything that you've done, and I'd like to invite you up on stage to join me to receive a token of our appreciation. Dara Horgan.
Dara, just to explain, in case it looks like an enormous whiskey glass, which doesn't seem very appropriate, it's basically, it's the names of just some of the young people that you've helped, and a particularly lovely quote from Nitin, one of our explorers this year, which just says, "I might be able to make miracles happen." So thank you very much. Thank you.
It is a nice touch.
It seems slightly superfluous at this point to say, hello, my name's Honor and I'm the CEO of British Exploring. So moving on. I'd like to say thank you to you all, To volunteers, to all our guests, and in particular, of course, to the young people who make our lives just so brilliant and so much fun and so worthwhile. I'd also like to thank our partners, mainly because actually there are rather more of you than there are of us. You make us look more interesting, more important, and you also challenge us, and you make it more possible for us to do our work. Whether they're new friends, like the Milestone Hotel, who are helping us fundraise, and by the way, do the best canapes in about a 500-mile radius, and also really important partners like Jubilee Sailing Trust, who I'll say a little bit about in a minute. Tonight's been a great celebration, but I don't want it to be a sit-back kind of celebration. I'd like it to be a lean-forward kind of event, because everyone here believes in the future. That's what you're all here about. Every single person here is committed to the idea that young people's lives can be made better by the contribution that we can make. Ben Saunders slightly oddly quoted a statistic from America. The actual quote is that over 75% of young people in this country now spend less time outdoors each day than prison inmates. It's also true that only a third of young people get to climb a tree or to build a den. Now, that might not appear to be terribly important, except for the other things that it indicates, which I think Ben pointed to. We all believe that young people should have a chance to develop the self-confidence and the determination and the integrity and the ability to make the kind of decisions which allows them to have better lives and also to help them support their communities, because that doesn't just benefit them, it benefits all of us. So when I say that we believe in the future, we believe in it for ourselves as well as for the young people that we work here to support. So how do we meet the challenge of doing it for more young people and doing it better? Well, partly through the partners, all of you who are here who would challenge us, and hopefully by delivering some more and better programs. One of those is called Infinity. I think the ambition is in the title. Infinity is a program that we're very proud of. It will allow us for the first time to deliver an expedition program for both disabled and non-disabled explorers together. And they will have the chance to sail a 3-masted tall ship to the edge of the Arctic Circle. And there they will trek and climb in the Lofoten Islands before returning to Scotland. And how do we do that? We do it because we're fearless about asking for help. Because the young people that we work with are worth it, and because the end result of what we all to do together is worth it. And we can do it because of the incredible partners that we work with, not least our funders, like the remarkable Dangor family, without whom Infinity wouldn't be happening, and the Jubilee Sailing Trust, without whose skills we wouldn't be able to deliver it. We're incredibly proud of what we've done so far, but we know we have a great deal more to learn from our fellows, from our leaders, from the young people that we work with. I can honestly say that I'm immensely proud to have every single person in this room, whether we've worked with you yet, whether we've had the good fortune to work with you already. Please keep leaning forward and leaning in, and we will keep asking you fearlessly for every form of support, because we all know that it's worth it. So thank you all very much indeed for coming. I hope you've enjoyed, like us, celebrating where we've got to so far, but that we all accept that we have a great deal further to go. So thank you very much indeed.